Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And we are on chapter 4 in Gulliver's Travels. I win my freedom. The following day, a high ranking minister arrived from the emperor. He unrolled a long document. These are the rules you must abide by, Man Mountain, he said solemnly. He began to read. You cannot leave the country or enter the capital without permission, he cried loudly. You must walk only on main roads and may not lie down on meadows or cornfields. When walking, you must be careful not to step on anyone, their horses or carriages, and you may not pick up anyone without their consent. You will agree to deliver messages for the emperor by carrying the messenger and his horse in your pocket to its destination and back again. The minister paused. This is the most important request, so listen carefully, he warned. You must agree to be our ally against our enemy, the both Bluefuskins, who live on the nearby island of Blefuscu. You must agree to do everything within your power to destroy their fleet, which is now preparing to invade Lilliput. He lifted his face to mine and in his deepest voice asked, Do you agree, Man Mountain? I agree, I answered, even though I knew the final request was written by Skyrish Bologram. The minister returned to the emperor. He was back that afternoon with 10 blacksmiths who removed all of my chains. I am free, I shouted. The blacksmiths scurried for cover at the sound of my voice. Sorry, I said, as they cautiously uncovered their ears. I turned to the minister. My first wish is to visit. My pages are stuck together. Is to visit your capital city, Mildendro. The emperor has already granted your permission, he replied. I was overjoyed. For the first time since my capture, I was free. I crawled into my house to get my coat. Then, with the sun on my back and the road before me, I walked to Mildendo. It was no more than 23 steps, but the stroll was the best of my life. I stopped at the city wall, a 2-foot high structure that surrounded the capital. It was a foot thick with stone watchtowers every 10 feet and one on each corner. I raised my coat tail so it would not drag over the rooftops, and I stepped over the wall into the city. The people had been warned that I was coming, so the streets were empty. Even so, I walked very carefully, in case there were stragglers. A clamor of voices filled the air the moment my foot touched the cobblestone street. The moment my foot touched the cobblestone street. The rooftops, balconies, and windows were filled with people. They waved and they shouted in a chorus that sounded like bees buzzing in an open hive. I waved back, but I was careful to keep my voice quiet. Too many times already, my voice, sneezes, or clapping had knocked Lilliputians down. I did not want to be responsible for someone falling from a roof. Thank you for this warm welcome, I said, bowing. My words were greeted with another shout. Children waved their hands and women waved colorful scarves. I carefully made my way up the large central avenue. I paused to study the layout. It was like looking at a tiny toy model. The amazing difference was Mildendro was real. The city performed a perfect square, 500 feet on each side. It was divided into 4 equal parts by 2 wide avenues that crossed in the center. I had no trouble walking down these avenues, but I had to avoid the smaller streets and alleys, which were only 12 inches wide. The streets were lined with 3-story apartment houses and many well-stocked shops and markets. I estimated from the number of dwellings and the crowds on the rooftops that at least 500,000 people lived in this capital. What a remarkable place, I thought. The emperor's palace stood in the center of the city where 2 wide avenues met. It was surrounded by a 2-foot high wall. I stopped at the wall. The emperor and the empress were standing in a window of the palace. You are welcome to enter, the emperor shouted. I stepped over the wall into the palace courtyard. I wish you could come inside so I could show you our palace, the emperor said. I was as eager to see the palace as the emperor was to show it off. I have an idea, I said. Tell your servants to open all the palace windows, and I will do the rest. The emperor turned to someone behind him, and in a few minutes, all of the windows were opened wide. I lay on my stomach so my head was just even with the top story windows. The emperor and the empress appeared in the window closest to my nose. The empress raised her arm and pointed around the elegant room behind her. "This is our drawing room," she said proudly. "These walls are covered with fine paintings." The furniture was the most beautiful that I had ever seen. Plush drapes hung from every window. "It is beautiful, Your Majesty," I said. "Come," she said, "and I will show you the rest of the palace." I proceeded to the next window and then to the next until I had looked into all of the tiny rooms. Each was as beautiful as the first. My only regret was that I could not enter. And that is the end of chapter 4 of Gulliver's Travels.